uh, digital transformation in legal system post-pandemic COVID-19. We all know that the humanity is at present passing through a very difficult phase. These are very challenging times for the entire world. All activities of human life have virtually come to a halt. But we know that the humanity cannot. Hello? Hello?
Yes, sir, you are audible, sir. Audible है आप. Sir, अब you are audible. आप
Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible. You can speak.
The humanity is struggling with resolve to overcome crisis. In no conditions the humanity can wait for end of this pandemic finally, and only then to start its activities in various fields of life and public life. There is a huge crisis. Many people are engaged in finding ways how to defeat this coronavirus and to create a situation where the society may function as usual. But by the time this crisis is going on, we have to find ways how to run our different institutions, how to keep the institutions and their functioning going on. We all know that we are ruled by rule of law. The Indian Constitution, which has the supreme authority in the matter of governance, is the ultimate guide, ultimate code, wherefrom we derive our principles of governance, notions of administrations. You must be knowing in olden days, especially in England, wherefrom we have borrowed our system of governance and legal and judicial system, there was a maxim, ubi jus ibi remedium. Where there is a right, there is a remedy. Earlier in England also, there used to be a maxim, ubi remedium ibi jus. If there is a remedy provided by law, only then a person could have raked up his right, his grievances, his cause of action. But in our country, that's not the position. Even England has done away with that old doctrine, and they have also evolved a system where if a person has a right, he must be provided a remedy in law. He must be provided a forum in law for redressal of his grievances, for deprivation of his rights, restoration of his rights. So is our condition in our country. Our constitution, various laws, legislations have given a lot of rights to the citizens of this country. This pandemic does not mean that all those fundamental rights, all those legal rights, civil rights, which the Constitution of India and various laws have given to the citizens of this country, they are suspended during this corona period. All the rights are available to the citizens. All their constitutional rights are very much there with them. So when the citizens are lashed with all their fundamental rights, which they had prior to the commencement of this pandemic, how can it be said that they will not be having a remedy in law, a remedy in our constitution? That's why alternate ways are being found out by the authorities, by the system, how the grievances of the people concerning the violation of fundamental rights, violation of their civil rights are redressed. I'm right away taking this topic to the constitutional and legal remedies, judicial remedies, which are available to the citizens. But the question is how those rights can be achieved, safeguarded during this pandemic crisis. We all know that our legal and judicial institutions have different and huge set of procedures to guide the institutions, to guide the functionaries of these institutions to discharge their function, to discharge their role, to redress the grievances of those who approach them. You know, the ultimate objective of any judicial system is to deliver justice, to do justice with the seekers of the justice. The procedure is only like a tool, like a medium, a means to help the court, or put it into simple language, to help the judges and the magistrates to discharge their function in a clearly understandable manner. But because of this pandemic, it has become quite difficult for the litigants, or those who approach the courts to seek the justice, to observe those procedures which are provided in the statute books. I am referring here the Code of Civil Procedure, the Code of Criminal Procedure, which provide large set of procedural rules for the guidance of advocates, litigants, judges and magistrates, and for everyone who approaches the courts. The question is, when the National Disaster Management Act 2005, the Pandemic Act, Endemic Act 1897, sections 269, 270 of the CRPC, section 188 of the IPC provide that if a person is caught breaching the guidelines issued by the governments from time to time for observance during this corona period, then how can people go to the court? How can, courts are public places? Can be allowed to breach the guidelines issued by the central or state governments under the acts, under the just referred to. And if they breach these laws, they will have to be prosecuted under various provisions which I just referred to here. But the question arises whether observance of all those procedures which were being observed prior to the commencement of this pandemic and still be observed. The remedy in law is that a procedure is not pending. If a procedure prevents a person from seeking redressal of his grievances or produces injustice, derails the course of justice, then any procedure can be taken away. There are rulings from the Supreme Court of India wherein it has been laid down that every procedure is valid unless the same is forbidden by law. The entire purpose of procedures is to help the courts, to help the litigants, help the lawyers, help the judicial system to function properly. If non-observance of any procedure promotes the cause of justice, then non-observance of procedure would be preferred. And observance of justice, delivery of justice would be ensured. It's not any procedure or all the procedure contained in the statute books always binding. If the authorities, if the courts, if the system, law enforcing agencies do find that observance of any procedure is not being possible because of this pandemic right now during these days, then procedures can be bypassed and justice should be preferred in such situation. You must be knowing our different legislations are already having different provisions. I will be drawing your attention to different provisions which are contained in different legislations, how we can overcome the challenge posed by this pandemic during this crisis as well. What sort of cases should be taken up? What sort of cases should not be taken up? This has become a matter of debate during these days in judicial and legal circles. A view has come out in our judicial and legal circles that if it is not being possible for the courts, for the judges, for the law enforcing agencies to take up all urgent and non-urgent matters together, then at least urgent matters should be taken up. The question arises, what are the urgent matters and what are non-urgent matters in our judicial and legal system? The answer to this issue is, if non-doing of an act, non-redressal of any grievance of a person results into deprivation of his rights or causes any injustice or prejudice, then such matters are treated to be urgent matters. But those which, if not undertaken during this pandemic, during this crisis period, would not result into any injustice, would not violation of rights of any person, they will be treated regular business. So in present scenario, we can classify the entire spectrum of law and judiciary into two categories: urgent matters, regular matters. Urgent matters, just I spoke, are those matters which, if not undertaken, if not performed, will produce injustice, will lead to violation of civil or constitutional rights. But as regards the regular business of the courts, of the law enforcing authorities, they are those matters which, if deferred to a particular time, would not produce any injustice, would not deprive the person of his constitutional or civil rights. So I think you people must be having some idea to what sort of matters are being taken up in present crisis by the courts, by the law enforcing agencies, and what are not being taken because of the challenge, crisis posed by this pandemic. Let me quote certain provisions regarding the means, regarding the procedure which are available in present times to help the courts, help the judges, the magistrates, advocates and litigants to seek redressal of their grievances. We all know that all levels of courts have permitted e-filing. We all know that after the introduction of IT Act 2000, in the year 2000, the Indian Evidence Act got amended. Its very initial section 3 was amended in the year 2000, and word electronic records was added in section 3 within the phrase documentary evidence. Now this electronic device, electronic record, has also been incorporated by way of amendment in section 3 of the Evidence Act as documentary evidence. It is substantive piece of evidence. Any content, any matter, any fact, anything which is contained in an electronic device is to be treated as documentary evidence within the meaning of section 3 of the Evidence Act. सुनाई पड़ रहा है भाई? हेलो हेलो.
Yes, sir, you are audible.
All right. I was just verifying whether it is just one-sided exercise or you people are able to listen to me. All right.
No, sir.
Then
Audible.
we know that after introduction of IT Act 2000, several sections in the Evidence Act got amended. If I can quote the list to just to draw your attention, to have an idea of what sections of the Evidence Act got amended. So section 3, 17, 22A, 34, 35, 39, 45A, 47A, 59, 65A, 65B, 67A, 73A, and lot many other sections got amended after introduction of IT Act 2000. What was the purpose behind amending these different sections of the Evidence Act? The object was, the SOR behind those amending acts was the facts, the material, the evidence, documentary or oral, which was earlier produced before the authorities, law enforcing agencies and the courts in the form of some paper, in the form of some tangible objects. They should now, or rather they can be produced before the authorities or the court in soft form, what we called in digital form, the electronic evidence. And the subject which we are dealing with today is directly linked to this IT Act, is directly linked to the amended provisions in the Evidence Act, which I just quoted. So if we are familiar with the provisions in the IT Act, familiar with the provisions, amended provisions in the Evidence Act, then our task becomes much easier. We can easily approach the law enforcing authorities. We can easily approach the courts for redressal of our grievances. I will start from civil side. If you go to the court system, then either there is a civil litigation or a criminal dispute between the parties. If it is a civil matter, so you know what are urgent matters in civil cases and what are regular businesses. In civil side, when a civil right is violated, an injury or damage is likely to be caused to any person, he rushes to the court with a suit for permanent privatory injunction, and while filing his suit, he seeks ad interim injunctions, ex parte injunctions or interim injunctions against his deponent, who is called in court language the defendant. So seeking ad interim injunction, seeking interim injunctions, seeking remedies against violation of interim injunctions. These are certain issues which are treated in civil matters, urgent matters, urgent issues. In this crisis, the courts which are functioning in our existing judicial system, they can deal with such matters on priority basis instead of giving their limited resources and time to those matters which are regular ones. What is the regular business in a civil case? You know, every proceeding which relates to the trial of a civil suit is called a regular proceeding because it makes progression towards the final disposal of the suit, of the civil case. But the ancillary proceedings which are taken side by side, they are not that regular proceedings which are generally rated to be the regular proceedings. In a civil suit, a trial starts with the framing of issues. In a criminal case, trial starts with the framing of charges. If it is a civil case, then framing of issues in part of trial. If it is a criminal case, framing of charges is part of trial. Prior to framing of issues or framing of charges in civil and criminal cases respectively, all proceedings are non-regular proceedings like injunction matter, interim injunction matter, bail, remand, everything. They are not regular matters, regular business of the court, but they are miscellaneous proceedings which do not make any progression towards the disposal of the case, final disposal of the case. So let me take example of the criminal cases. What are the urgent matters in the criminal side in our court system? You know, the criminal proceeding in our court system starts with the furnishing of information to the police regarding cognizable or non-cognizable offences. The machinery of the criminal law is put into motion with the registration of FIR. Rather, even furnishing of information to the SHO, registration of FIR takes at a later stage. So when a person gives information to police, to SHO or a police station, if some cognizable offence has been committed, then it becomes incumbent on the part of police, the SHO, to register it under section 154 of the CRPC. The question arises when gathering of people are seeking recourse to the authorities is physically, practically not being possible at present because of this pandemic. How can information be furnished? How can FIR be got registered with the police station? You know, there are several devices, electronic devices, which have got due recognition under our Evidence Act by way of different amendments. They have got due recognition under IT Act 2000, which can be applied by the aggrieved person for registration of his FIR for purposes of furnishing information as to commission of cognizable offence to the police. The modes are usual modes which are very much in prevalence nowadays. They are this message through mobile, telephonic information given to the police regarding commission of crime, WhatsApp, Twitter, and you know, several other devices are there which are applied in modern times to communicate the ideas, the information from one source to other source. So those who are having some grievance, they cannot physically go, practically go to the police station for registration of FIR. They can do it while sitting at home through their mobile, through their electronic devices like computer, like these electronic systems, and furnish their information to the police for registration of their FIR. And if it is a non-cognizable offence, the same mode can be applied. What are called NCR, non-cognizable offence, which are registered under section 155 of the CRPC. 154 CRPC is very much there. 155 CRPC is very much there. They can be fully pressed into service in the same manner as they were being pushed into service, pressed into service prior to the start of this pandemic. Let me again repeat, every citizen is having the same very constitutional rights, the same very legal rights which he used to earlier have prior to this pandemic. Continuance of this pandemic doesn't mean that remedies are not there, law is not there, constitution is not there. Everything is there. No system can sit mute, silent spectator. Let pandemic end, only then we will function. No, that course can't be allowed. That would amount to the failure of rule of law, failure of the Constitution of India. You know, Constitution of India is nothing except rule of law. The question arises, what was there when Constitution of India was not introduced, when there were no codified laws like today's? So what was the set of rules which ruled and guided the Indian society? Let me quote some verses from Chanakya's Arthashastra, where he says about the paramountcy of law, rule of law. In one verse, Chanakya says in his Arthashastra, Dharmo Shastra Prajah Sarve Dharmevabhirakshat Sarve Supte Sujagarti Dharmam Dandam Vidurbudha. It is the law, it is the rule of law that is paramount, that is supreme. In our existing constitutional scheme of governance, there is demarcation of powers among three organs treated under the Constitution, the executive, the judiciary, and the legislature. The question arises, which one is the supreme among these three? None. Supreme Court has word supreme affixed to its very name, but still it is not supreme. Supreme is only the Constitution of India. These are only offsprings. These three organs are just like offsprings of the father, the Constitution of India. It is the Constitution of India that governs the nation, that governs the country, not the Supreme Court, not the executive, and not the legislature. So, Constitution is very much there. Its rate still runs into this pandemic era. Different laws are very much in force. They are nowhere suspended. So when constitution is operative, when laws are operative, then some ways have to find out to redress the grievances of people, whether it is a civil matter or a criminal matter. I just pointed out certain provisions from CRPC and other laws which can be applied to meet out this crisis. Let me take another point for our discussion. In a criminal matter, just I quoted कि proceedings start with the furnishing of information to the police regarding commission of offences. The role of the police is to register such information, to embark upon investigation, and if necessary, to interrogate the accused in custody, to arrest the accused for custodial interrogation. Suppose कि in a cognizable offence case, police proceeds to arrest a person as part of its investigation. You know, after arresting the accused, the police is duty bound under Article 20, Clause 2 of the Constitution of India, and also under Section 167 of the Code of Criminal Procedure to produce the arrestee, the accused, before the nearest magistrate within a period of 24 hours from the time of his arrest. Of course, the journey time which the police took for taking the accused to the magistrate can be excluded from this period, but it is incumbent upon the police, while making the arrest, to produce the arrestee before the magistrate within a period of 24 hours. They are doing it. Crime has not stopped. So is the law. It has not stopped. I was just referring to Chanakya's verse. He says that it is the rule of law that governs the society. Word dharma has always been used in our Indian philosophy, in our Indian understanding of the society and human psyche, human characteristics and behavior. The sense of law